Thank you, Ted. Appreciate the introduction. I hope this is a provocative talk and a provocative day. I think the theme that was resonating in my mind as Joey was speaking is that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. It is such a privilege to be in the position we are today. So many people 2+ decades ago did so much hard work so that we could be here today to ask the question, what are we going to do next? And how does that look in our eyes? I think we have such great momentum. And what I hope to do in the next 30 minutes or so is to give you a state of palliative pediatric everyone here in Minnesota. And what we could potentially do in a novel way to change things and shape the future for generations to come. I know that's a huge task. And at the same time, why not? We're here. So much great work has been done. Let's take advantage of it. And let's use our multidisciplinary, all the perspectives that we have here today, to put our brains together, our thoughts together, our energies together, and our compassion together, and see what we've been accomplished. So what I hope to do is be provocative, think outside the lines. We're going to shape the future together. And with that, start thinking, get those juices flowing. What can we do right now in the near future, in the far future, that will change the landscape as we... Before I start, one disclaimer, AI was not used in the development process. As ran. This year is one of my resolutions. I will announce that every call I get. And I fully, it stays true. For us and size. I'm a little resistant, but I know it's the tsunami from the board. So what is the state of pediatric palliative care? I would give the landscape. Again, Joey built nicely in the history and piggyback off of that momentum. Where are we going? Where do we want to go? What are the barriers to achieve those goals? And what can we do right now, starting today, that can change that landscape? So a little bit of the landscape of what currently exists within formal pediatric palliative care institutions. We have Children's, we have Masonic, we have Gillette, we have Mayo Clinic. And in the center of all that, and again, I'm unbiased. I get to serve on the board of directors, which is one of the greatest privileges of my life. As of end of last year, Crescent Cove is at the site, in a way, at the center of that. But really, we're all partnering together to accomplish the same goal, which is to serve our patients and our families. So, what's the current state of each institution? I reached out, all the directors are kind enough to not ignore me. What's impressive, and this is in no particular order, but just to give you a sense of what's available currently in terms of funded staff members at each hospital. We currently at Children's of Minnesota has 25 aid staff members in our pediatric palliative care team. Super impressive, a little jealous, if I'm being honest. Yes, we have anyone from Children's here today? Nice, excellent. Thank you, please. Right there. Jeff McCreasor. Made that move mounts. Krista Dream, man, she's doing incredible work. So kudos to you and your program. Masonic. It was currently at 8. And yes, you saw from Julie Howard to Dr. Roloffs for Quinn. A lot of gaps in between those individuals and a lot of bridges that people, Stacey Dahl, that did wonderful work to keep that program afloat. Now 8. And Dr. Lawn, if I don't think she's here yet, should be here later. She was at N of 1. I can empathize with her, and she did an amazing job to get to the current position, which is recently hired to positions and other APRN as well. Or that anyone currently here strongly saw jokes. Excellent. Thank you for being there. The Mayo Clinic. The Cupus team, I dig that name. I just love something catchy, and you'll see why in a minute. So I've done a nice job. Chris Calora has built that program, and we're the current of 9 clinicians dedicated with allocated FTE time. Appreciate their work. It's always great to collaborate with each of these 3 institutions. What I find so refreshing and inspiring is that whenever I reach out to any one of these institutions saying, your patient's here, help me out, there's zero hesitation. And the response time doesn't make sense to me. Something like, you're working, right? Like, you have other responsibilities, and you just got back to me within 13 seconds. So that just, I think, speaks to the collegiality and the collaboration. Again, that's a huge opportunity for us to beat that front off of. Is there anyone here from the Mayo Clinic? It's okay. It's a distance. It's probably about 2-hour drive. So we'll be more thinking than our thoughts. And of course, I see the best or last. I've been biased. I've been at Gillette almost 12 years now. I'm super excited and privileged to be here. And in the role that I'm in, I was an N of 1 for 7 years. So in terms of running a team of 1 nurse, and just a bunch of supports and determined people that say, we're not going to let this stop. So I'm very blessed to be in that position. And we just hired 2 more physicians as of the end of 24. Super excited about that. I was talking to Jody earlier. I had a department meeting this morning, and our outpatient clinic is 70% above expected for the year. So we're doing great things for really expanding our interest and endeavors and meshing with and trying to backfill that because there's a huge need. And we're trying to think about what can we do statewide and beyond. So we are now at, what is that math? Around 11? Thank you. At this point, 11. So when you think about all these individual institutions, they're growing credit. And the last one, actually, I did say for last, but before I get there, I love names, kitschy names. So we're the Quality of Life team now. That's a newly branded name for our team. Quality. And our next slide is the quote. No, I actually did say the best for last. So I just pressed go. And look at these numbers. This is remarkable. When Mary gave me that these are paid staff, of course, what really stands out is those part of those volunteers, but state staff versus 52 aid staff at Crescent Cove. That is incredible. And in a span of 8 years of operation, what remarkable numbers. And again, to have, who wouldn't be jealous of 102 volunteers? And you look at the diversity of staff, including music therapy, massage therapy, qigong. That's just really fantastic. I think a lot of opportunity for collaboration at which will be. Patient families. Are there any families, parents who any experience with personal experience? Chris? Excellent. Thank you for being here. So we ask all the time in our day-to-day life, what are their needs? What are our families' needs? And I have a lot of ideas. I know you have a lot of ideas. I'm going to propose some what I hear, and I think you're going to agree in that these are common themes. You started 6 years ago. We went through a goofy time, and we were still recovering from that. Goofy time, that's a soft word. But I have to separate, right? You just got to move on at some point. Which fun. But trauma for us, hey, my goodness, what did Aaron's experience? The nursing care virtually fell out. Everything got reallocated. Supports vanished. It was a really dark time for a lot of families. Your seat support is huge, and it still is. Trying to get allocated hours for a child who has trach, who is tent dependent, G2, has 60 seizures a day. We should be this difficult to get the care that these families needs to keep their children safe, healthy, and out of the hospital. Coordination of care. We have 4 great children's hospitals, and we're the Starbucks of Minnesota. We're just on every corner almost. We have 4 great institutions with people who have done incredible work, and we have great coordination of care. Maybe we can take that coordination of care on another level and collaborate on that level that is almost independent of our institutions. And we're working as a palliative care coalition to build something amazing, and maybe we can do that partnership with Crescent Cove. Segue, respite care. Parents need a break. That is, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know that. And yet you still aren't getting on the race in life. Crescent Cove is an amazing facility. Do amazing work. And getting access to Crescent Cove can be a challenge. Having familiarity with Crescent Cove, there's a big threshold when parents are, okay, I'm going to go to this new place, drop my child off without me for how many nights? Okay. Gotta be over that. So there's some challenges there, but I think we can change the scope, the landscape of respite care. A little bit about Crescent Bogue. I'm a believer. I know about a lot. And others are going to talk about this later, but it's one of 3 pediatric-specific hospice emergency care homes in the country. What a remarkable feat. Recent data, in ages reserved 21 years old, 15 nights of respite allotted per year. Recent data show that if 50% of children of families in the Twin Cities metro area receive those allotted 15 nights per year, we would need 72 beds. As most of you know, Crescent Bogue has 5. That's a huge lift. I won't give a, sort of spoiler alert. As a member of the board of directors, I'm super excited to say that we are looking at building the second home. Amen. Yes. We clap for that. Yeah. I mean, I just showed up. But I'm hoping to do that work and help in that endeavor. And we know that's years down the road, 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe more. There are a lot of passionate people doing a lot of great work to achieve that. But what we do in that meantime, and if we do accomplish that, when we accomplish that, we're still going to be very short on meeting the demand. What are the barriers? Yeah, space. We just don't have enough space. A second home is going to give us more space. It's going to give us a different geography. Geography is a huge part. Driving that distance. It's in the metro area. Obviously, that's where the population is concentrated. We have families up in rural Minnesota driving 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours to get all the way for a weekend of respite. That's a big ask. As Joey alluded to, even pediatric hospice out in rural Minnesota, rural America, is a really big challenge. Is that the barrier we can begin to confront? And then cost. These programs cost money. Again, kudos to everyone at Crescent Bogue who has formulated relationships with great people like all the folks that you saw, those who were at the gala. By the way, that was my first gala, and I will never not go to another Crescent Bogue gala as long as I'm able, because that was inspiring. And part of that was a bunch of great Minnesota Twins players giving generously. So the philanthropy work that has been done, I think we can learn from that, and we can mirror that on some level, and we can honor what Crescent Bogue has done by saying it's going to be financially burdensome, but there's going to be some home runs here and there. Crescent Bogue has done it. I believe it's 77% of all funds at Crescent Bogue are donor funds. That's incredible. Or 3/4 of the funds are philanthropy. And I think it's from 1,300 donors. About that. 1,300 people essentially fund almost all of Crescent Bogue. If Crescent Bogue could be a less partner, and let's figure out something novel to make that a staple. So quality of life. What does respite care offer? There's some great data on that. Quality of life is improved with respite care. We see physical symptoms with health care, quality of life, validated assessments. Physical symptoms improve, psychosocial symptoms improve, well-being overall improves. We've also seen, Jody mentioned Joanne Wolf. She's one of those giants we are standing on. She's out of Boston Children's. Pediatric hematology oncology was a great research mentor of mine years ago. Very well adept in the pediatric palliative care world. This was published almost a year ago in Pediatrics, Call to Action for Changing the Landscape of Pediatric Respite Care. Why? Because there are over 1 million children in the country that are diagnosed as medically complex. It kind of seems a little small to me, but still 1 million children. But those 1 million children require 40% of all healthcare rounds. What's the value-based care in respite care? Sure, the reimbursement is for insurance. You don't want to cover it. But what if we change the landscape by looking at possible outcomes. What if lengths of stays were shorter? What if hospitalizations overall were less frequent? Now we're saving dollars in reinvesting those dollars into a different area that has been proven to improve quality. So shifting back to our numbers, when you combine all of the pain, palliative care, integrated medicine resources across the 4 institutions, remember that number I told you, the number of paid staff at Crescent Core, what was that? 52. So 2 points. Well, guess what? It's the same number. All the children's hospitals combined. I don't know, it might give me a little bit of chills when I just count for that number. I don't know if there's something behind it. I don't know. I'm going to pretend there is. But total, we have 104 pediatric-specific experts across our state. To me, that's a profound number. And I was thinking last cycle, what is the 100? What's the, okay, you had a 52 of those providers, 52 of these providers, totally 104. What's the mean? I don't know. Maybe we accomplished this in 104 weeks. 2 years. Yeah. I am also a hopeless optimist. Yeah, so be skeptical, be scrutinizing, and if we don't aim high, we're not going anywhere.
Those are adaptations from this hospital. So he works.
Thank you for pointing that out.
All right.
Yes, and I meant to state that there are other pediatric palliative care experts in this country that I did not capture, in this state that I failed to capture, just because I know that whole landscape, and there's a lot of people, whether it's formal or informal, who are participating in this process. But you're here, you might be one of them. Yes? Wonderful, thank you for speaking up. And yes, we don't just have 104, we have more than actually can appreciate, so we are going to tap in all those resources collectively. And with our core found guiding principles of trust, compassion, and hope. With that, we can accomplish anything. So what's our future? You can't talk about near far without talking about Grover. Is anyone not know who Grover is? Okay. Little ease. Yes, that's history. I grew up with Grover. Appreciate that. So near far, what can we think about near far? But what can we think about right now? And this picture is probably familiar to many of you. This is Savannah, Elgit's family. They were featured at this year's Crescent Core Gala. They so cute. Their slideshow was beautiful. I don't believe there was a dry eye in the crowd that evening. When I think about respite care, I always think about Savvy because she was incredibly medically complex. And this is the family who would spend 4 nights, 5 nights, 7 nights a week covering shifts. Because the nursing staff diminished, or they canceled last minute, or they wouldn't show up at all. It was heartbreaking to the fact that the family recognized with their other children, this is devastating, this tearing apart. And it's so heartbreaking to think that a family and parents is loving, displacing Jeff, would consider placing their beloved daughter, into a medical foster type home. And in fact, that was one of the conversations we had, because they said, we can't keep doing this. This is not sustainable. We talk about respite care, and yes, we need respite care, but the process is, there's too many barriers for us. Logistically, she's so complex. We hear this theme over and over again. I can't get to Crescent Core as much as I want to. I'm worried about her complexities, her seizures, which are innumerable. I once asked the family, I said, well, what if we had, I don't know, what if we could just bring in Digilette? The rest of it, would you do that? Okay, well, what's the difference? Well, I know I've been there, and I know this thing is true for other institutions. Now that's, well, when your child was last hospitalized, how many in that, let's say 3 weeks, did you ever leave the hospital? Yeah. Well, why'd you leave the hospital? Because I felt copper. that's when the wheel started to turn for me. So we have this model where when it comes to respite care, we're all the inputs are heading to Cressico. And Cressico, I sing the praises. I probably talk to families about Cressico 2 or 3 times a week, whether they're not yet Cressico or they just returned from a visit. A lot of glowing reflections, a lot of praise. And now I keep singing those praises and share that with families. But what if we flip this paradigm upside down so that the inputs for Cressico aren't just the 4 main institutions, but in fact we create a two-way path to say, if we can't provide Cressico or respite care at Cressico because they're not capacity, because the wait list is 4 months, 6 months, geographical trust, you name it. What if when Cressico wasn't available due to those reasons, we said, well, why don't you just have respite care at Bayside or Mayo Children's? They have a bed. In fact, you have a policy. In fact, we have a respite care program in place at each of these 4 institutions that allows families to receive greater access, more frequent access, reimbursed access to respite care. What if on top of that, we said, hey, Mayo Clinic, we have a patient who's in the metro area. They just have prolonged hospitalization. They need respite care right now. Children's, you haven't met them before in that part of your system. You have availability. Yeah. Cressico is full. So the children's. Or what if we have, at Gillette, we have a patient in the Southwest Metro or Southeast Wisconsin who needed respite care. I can refer to Mayo Clinic. Or what if after a 2-week or 2-month prolonged ICU hospitalization at Masonic, family said, hey, I didn't leave the bedside for 2 straight months. I didn't see the light of day. I need to go home. I have other children. I haven't done long. All those things that you need to catch up on life. I just sleep. Okay, after your discharge, we're going to move you over the rest of the care unit. Your child's going to stay here, standard of care. We're going to mimic what happens at Cressico. In fact, we're going to bring those resources in and partner with Cressico so that we're working in parallel. These aren't separate entities. We are one the same. We are a unified force working together to provide what Cressico does in the home. Now I put that side in a hospital setting. A lot of barriers, a lot of logistics. We can talk about that. But this is what I hope to do, is plant that seed. We can shape our future together. We can work through those barriers. We can form, as opposed to working independently on this. If this is something we want to take on, we work together. Perhaps I'll be the last person to say we need more committees in life. But if we had a respite care coalition and we started to make policies, we started to work with the care models and insurance and med legal on a statewide level and leverage each other, not to say, hey, guess what? And they've got this program up and running. Maybe we should do that because look at the marketing they're doing. Or how they just had a $20 million Pioneer Press head page donation. What if we leverage each of our institutions, say, we're not going to do this unless all the other 3 do it. We're going to do this together. And we're going to tap into each other's resources. We're going to stand on those shoulders and we're going to do them justice, our founding fathers and mothers justice, by creating a care model that could change the entire landscape within our country. Not just Minnesota. This could be something that every state across the country adopts. A lot of work, but why wouldn't you? Let's not let work be our barrier. Cressico is a wonderful example of that. Almost that time, one of my favorite quotes is by George Bernard Shaw, A Splendid Torch. I'm just going to pull it up. Is anyone familiar with this quote? So, this quote was part of my enthusiasm for, in talking to Jaylene before this, part of my enthusiasm for this line of work was some little bit of superficial opportunities I had at Fulmington's original hole in the wall camp. I'll be Ashford, Connecticut, where I trained in. One of my training was in May that day. And I did this cherry red angel light every year, and it's 135 miles across the state of Connecticut. The extended night at camp, which was incredible. And I'll never forget one of the mornings. First of all, you wake up to a 6th grade revolutionary band. At 6 a.m. playing Yankee Doodle. After biking 90 miles in 90 bars, I did not feel like I was actually living. Or somewhere else in the spirit world. I was not here. And then the camp director at that time, Maddie, gave this incredible George Bernard Shaw quote. I'm just going to read you a little bit because it really resonated with me at that time, and it still does to this day. In part of it says, I want to be thoroughly used up by God. For the harder I work, the more I do. That gets me every time I read it. Like this no brief candle for me is sort of a splendid torch, which I hold up for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing over future generations. I think today we have great opportunity to collaborate, to start thinking outside the box and outside the lines, whether it's respite care or any other avenue of pediatric palliative care, to build something special for future generations. Again, it is an incredible honor to be here today. I look forward to conversations. I can't thank you enough.